Hello there, and welcome to the back room. In today's video, I will be reviewing more Mindustry schematics, particularly how to make Pyratite using the Pyratite Mixer. Again, you can find these schematics on the Mindustry schematic website. The credit goes to the creators there. You can look them up by their names that I listed on my review here. Again, if you want to see the criteria, you can check out my first video on graphite, and that will give you the criteria that I use. I'm showing it here on the screen real quick if you want to pause the video. But let's go ahead and jump into them and start reviewing Pyratite Mixer schematics. Okay, so this first one thing that I want to point out about Pyratite is that Pyratite is one that it's mainly used as ammo or to generate power. And so it's one of those that I don't really use very often, but sometimes it's nice to have on a map that's really hard and you need a little heftier ammo or you need power a little bit better. And so I rarely use schematics that just generate lots of them. And so this first schematic here is the 2x2 design that I came up with that allows you to put in coal, lead, and sand, and it will create graphite, silicon, metaglass, and pyrite. And you can then pull the pyrite off to make power or to feed it pull it out of your core to use for ammo. This one I wanted to show as an option. When you start a level, you can put this one down real quick with the 3 resources in, and it will give you a trickle of these 3 resources until you can build bigger factories. Now, I could have included this schematic on the other videos, but I put it here because it allows you to use pyrite, allows you to get pyrite in probably the amounts that I would use it if I'm not tying it to a power factory. So this one, I would probably give it a B. I don't use this a ton, but sometimes if you just need a quick resource generator for all of the 4 basic resources, you can put that in there. So let's go on to the next one. The next one here we have Pyratite. I'm not sure if there was a 1 on the actual website, so you might search for it if you want this one later without the 1. This one is an interesting take. It's very similar to the very basic resource generator that we have for like silicon or metaglass, where you feed in the resources and these overflow conveyor belts pass the resources down. But for some reason, whoever did this put in the lead on the bottom. That allows you to scale this to the right, and then it doesn't take up too much vertical space. Now, I don't understand why we couldn't just put this lead up with these other items up here, and then just have a third conveyor belt coming down that angles off to the side here. It does make the schematic a little bit wider. In fact, originally that's how I did it when I was using Pyratite. I think it works. It is a little confusing and does require routing the materials in a little bit of an odd way. So I'll give it a C. It's not something that's terrible, but it's not one I would use in general. Okay, moving on. So this one here is Pyratite 2x2. So this one is, well, actually, before I get to this one, let me skip to the next one. This is the Pyratite 2x2. This is the one that, if you've seen my other videos, I like this design. I like to have your Pyratite, my factory buildings in a 5x5 grid with unloaders between them, and you can put in the resources from any direction, and you can pull out the resources down the bottom. Again, you can rotate this if you want to have the resources come in another direction, right? This works really well, and you can now put it in a grid with all the other designs that I have. There is one problem, however, with this one, and so I'm going to go ahead and put this one. I'll rank this one, and we'll come back to we'll talk about why. I'm going to give this one an A tier. You might be wondering, oh well, backroom, why are you putting this as an A tier? You've ranked all of your other 2x2s as superior. Well, I'm glad you noticed that. Sorry. But in this case, I don't think this one's the best design. And the reason is because Pyratite is manufactured very slowly. Because it's very slow, it is a little more efficient if you use the next design. Let me go back, or the previous design, this one here. And so with this one, you can feed in your lead, sand, and coal along the top, and you can actually repeat this one to the right. And what that allows you to do is in a more tight pattern, you can, and not having to crisscross your conveyor belts too much, you can make 8 Pyratite factories all at once. And the benefit of that is if you need to make a lot of ammo and you're feeding this to your front lines, yeah, you want to be able to make this quicker. And this 4x4 grid by itself just wasn't quite efficient enough. But if you do it this way and you stack these to the side, you can get enough to make this more efficient. So that one I would say is actually superior. And when I need a lot of pyrite, I use that one a lot. Okay. Moving on to the next one, we have Pyratite 3. In this case, it's named that probably because there's three of them in a row. And it takes resources from well, it looks like this is supposed to be sand right here. They messed up the schematic. That probably is supposed to be a sand unloader because you can see the sand is unloading from there. And then you probably feed in the lead and the coal from the right-hand side, and your pyrite unloads to the left. In theory, you could probably put these in series. The problem is you're going to start running out of lead and lead and coal eventually. You could probably have tons of sand, and sand would not be a problem in this setup here. So I think this works. I think I like that it's compact. Yeah, I think this one's pretty good. I'll give it an A, minus the fact that it needs to fix that unloader there. If you're putting just sand on this, granted, if you fed all three resources, you could probably do that, but then you get some intermittent resources depending on how you feed that pipe. All right, moving on to the next one. Here is Pyratite 6X. All right, you guys might have seen this one or one similar to this one on the previous video for silicon. And I think there's also one of these designs for metaglass as well. This one is a great design. You can put any resources from any direction, but the shortcoming here is that there isn't a way for these Pyratite mixers on the bottom to share resources. And so it has to, if you put the sand in one side and the lead and the coal in the other, they have to fight back and forth trying to get enough resources to each other. It's a great design. I'm going to give it an A, but I think you're going to have problems getting enough resources with just 3 conveyor belts. You're probably going to need to put additional conveyor belts. It is very compact. In that respect, it is really good. Okay. Moving on to Pyratite Line. So this one kind of takes an idea from Pyratite 3 in that the Pyratite mixers share resources going along. Granted, there's only one unloader, and the shortcoming there is that you're not going to get as much resources passed along. However, Pyratite doesn't need as many resources as quickly because it takes a while to build. So or to manufacture, and so you probably are just fine going a certain number of these to the right. I wouldn't go too many because by the time you get to the end, you're going to run into scarcity. Granted, you could feed more resources into the top of this, and they will share back and forth, which is not a bad option. But the point is, you want to avoid having snaking conveyor belts all over the place. Now, if you feed them into your core or into this container, you can get pretty good amount of resources and share them to the right. So I like this one. It's pretty effective. I probably wouldn't use it as much just because it's going to get long and skinny. I'll put it that way. All right. So this one is Pyratite Small. This is actually, there's 2 of them here. So if you look at this, you can see it repeats right down this line right there, right here. And you can actually repeat them going down. Now, this one works because you have 3 different conveyor belts and you have 3 unloaders, so you're going to get a consistent amount getting passed out to the right. But it does repeat a couple times. This was one of my designs before I came up with the 2x2 grid, and I liked this one for a while, but again, it gets long and skinny off to the right. Not terribly skinny, actually. It's a little fatter than the other one. So this one I wouldn't use anymore. It does work early on, minus the fact that you need plastanium to make this, so no, it doesn't even work early on. Take that back. Sorry about that. So that one I'm going to give a C, and that one's one of my creations that it's not really that small either. So, all right. So here's the Pyratite. This one's just called Pyratite as well. This one is actually, I think I alluded to this one early on, where you pass in 3 resources. You need your sand, your coal, and your lead, and because of the placement of these overflow valves, it will dump resources down into each of these. Now, when I first looked at this, I was under the impression that this was actually going to work. You're short 1 resource, aren't you? So I don't even know if this one's going to work. Huh. Because you're going to feed in sand, it's going to go hit here. Sand's going to overflow into there. So it will work for a little bit, though I think this might eventually jam. Because if this cell is full, it won't be able to accept the resource as it comes in. Now this might actually work. I don't know. I'd have to give this one a try. And you know what? You might notice that I don't try all of these, and that's partially because it would take a long time to try all of them. So I'm looking through them, trying to figure out what they do, and if they're good, I'll try them. This one, I don't think it's really worth it because it's very large and you're only getting 3 of them out of it. And so I'd rather do my 2 by 2 grid anyway. Sorry, whoever created this one. I'm probably going to give it an F because I just wouldn't use it. It's just too big. And looking at it, I don't know if it actually works. And that doubt when I'm playing the game and it's a game based on speed, I don't want to have to worry about what jammed and why is it not working. So sorry, that one's going to go our only F tier for this. Well, maybe our only F tier. Maybe this one's a F tier. Let's look at this one. I don't know. Maybe it's a good one. So this one is Shard Pyratite Mixer. So this one is around your shard. It unloads all the resources from the shard and then dumps the resources back in. It's a cool idea. Maybe for multiplayer games, this would be great. But I wouldn't. You can't really use this for your single player because you kind of need to load other resources into your core. And yeah, so there's a lot of. I like the use of the unloaders to be able to pass resources back and forth, make sure all the resources go to where they need to go, and there are conveyor belts to route everything back into the core. So if you had like multiple cores and you could share your pyrite across the cores, this is actually not a bad option. So you know what? I'm not gonna give it an F, and I think I may have graded another one that did Metaglass that did something like this, and I didn't consider the multiplayer application just because I don't play multiplayer of this, so sorry about that. But for your campaign, I wouldn't use this because you can't get it off your area. Probably give it a C. It's not going to be an F. It's not a failure, but definitely not one that you would use in single player. Granted, I might be wrong on that one. Tell me if I'm wrong. Let me know if there's in the comments if there's a good use to use this in single player. Anyway, so there we have it. That's the last one. Hopefully, you saw something you liked in here, and if you have one that you think would be better or a reason to not like my ranking, let me know in the comments, and I'll end it here.